Man, sales is tough. I'm just not cut out to be a salesperson. Have you ever felt that way? Selling doesn't need to be so difficult. My name is Harry Spate. I'm here to serve and to help you succeed. Join me as we discuss sales made easy.
Different categories. You've got virtual networking, you've got in-person networking, which are pretty vague categories. I understand that. Virtual and in-person. And then on the other side, you have private and exclusive networking groups. And then you have public and open networking groups.
Okay.
And so there's four categories that I break everything out into. And of course, being in the private networking group space, I say that you should be a part of one private networking group, 100%. Whether that's one of my groups or another type of private exclusive networking group that works for you, that's what I'm pitching. I'm pitching you need to be part of one private exclusive networking group, no matter what it is.
Yeah.
That's one of the most important things. So you can, grow with a group of individuals, help each other, not only on a business level, but on a mentoring level, and just be in it for the long term.
What is a good word? So we have another episode of our Sales Made Easy podcast. And today we have with us a special young man by the name of Austin Titus. I've known Austin now coming up on 3 years. He is a family, he's actually been in the family of United Franchise Group, having been raised in it by dad and mom and grandparents. And I met Austin when he started working with Network Lead Exchange. Today, he is the president of this organization inside of United Franchise Group. And I am here to tell you that Austin is on fire. His business is crushing it. And I wanted to talk to him about what are the reasons for his and his company's success. So, Austin, welcome to the Sales Made Easy podcast.
Thanks, Harry. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. So, Austin, tell us, what is going on in your world with Network Lead Exchange these days? I hear and I see that they're popping up everywhere. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start off by giving you and the listeners a little bit of my background. I've
Awesome.
been, with Network Lead Exchange, as you mentioned, for about 3 years now. Full time, and with our parent company, United Franchise Group, about 8 years full time, but really on and off my whole life. As you mentioned before, it's our family business. My dad started a company called Signorama in 1986. He started the first Signorama location up in Farmingdale, New York, and was running the sign shop, made it successful, turned it into a franchise model. And, fast forward 35 years, there's 800 locations with Signorama.
Wow. Yeah.
My older brother, AJ, is the president of Signorama, and my dad, Ray Titus, is the CEO of United Franchise Group, our parent company. And Signorama is, of course, our biggest brand. But, in between 1986 and 2022, we've acquired and partnered with all different types of companies and started other companies ourselves. And, most of my personal background are in our B2B businesses. And as you can see, Signorama is a B2B business, signs, graphics, decals, vehicle wraps, those types of things. Fully Promoted is another one of our businesses, which is promotional products, embroidery, screen printing. That used to be called Embroid Me back in the day. It was rebranded to Fully Promoted a few years ago. There's about 300 locations with that brand. And the reason I bring that up is because that's really where most of my background is the Signorama brand and the Fully Promoted brand in selling B2B products and services. And I know, Harry, you have a similar background in the sales world, selling a lot of B2B. And that's why I was so involved in networking. As you know, networking is so huge in the B2B world. It's mandatory. It's required for you to be successful.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So your franchise that you're in charge of, and I hear about all these others that are doing great. So Network Lead Exchange, what is this all about?
Yeah, so we're an exclusive networking group. That's exclusive. What I mean by that is exclusive to profession. So only one person per profession can join the group. But we're more of a flexible and, I guess, for lack of better terms, fun version of networking here, of the exclusive private groups. And so we have an online platform where the members can communicate, send referrals to each other, and even send commissions to each other. And we have social meetups, happy hours, breakfast events, virtual meetings. The attendance isn't required, so it's a flexible option. And so we really encourage the natural networking. We don't really force it as to some of the other traditional networking groups would. We put people in scenarios where they have the opportunity to network and grow the business that they're supporting. But we have about 65 franchises now with Network Lead Exchange in 16 different states,
Nice.
and going into Canada now as well. So we're excited about that.
All right. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And that's some of the growth that we've had. But I was kind of getting into the reason why we started Network Lead Exchange in the first.
Yeah.
Before we dive into the networking part of it, we really started it because of our experience with our other brands. And I would actually teach a course in our training school about networking and going out and joining different networking groups, being a part of the local community, giving back, that type of stuff. And over the years, we've received a lot of different feedback from Sinorama and fully promoted franchisees on those other networking groups. And that's where we came up with this Network Lead Exchange model ourselves.
Yeah, awesome. So, as far as your experience is concerned, what would you say is a couple of things that you've learned in this role about networking that maybe you didn't really know before?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and when I came into this business, it was an interesting time. It was about 2019, and I was running Network Lead Exchange for about 6 months before COVID-19 hit. And the funny thing about Network Lead Exchange is our model didn't really change much when COVID hit. I think I'd like to say that we're geniuses and we thought of it ahead of time, but I think we got a little lucky. We always had that flexible / virtual type model going. And so we received a wave of interest because of the flexibility and the virtual aspect of it, where when other networking groups were kind of scrambling to get it all together and to keep having their meetings and teaching people how to use Zoom and that type of stuff, we had already been doing that. And so what I've learned is that people don't really want necessarily the virtual networking. They want flexibility. And sometimes flexibility means virtual. A lot of times it means virtual. But they want the flexibility and the freedom to network when they want, where they want, and how they want. And with Network Lead Exchange, not only do we provide them with those groups, we actually show them how to network in different areas. Social events, happy hours, different scenarios there. I have been going to a lot of the small business expos all around the country, and I teach a workshop on putting together your networking strategy in 2022. And it looks so much different now than it would have, 2 years, well, I guess 3 years ago now, just because of the way that things have changed over time.
Yeah. So talk to me, what are some of the differences that you're doing today?
So when I break down the different networking categories, I usually do it in 4 different categories. You've got virtual networking, you've got in-person networking, which are pretty vague categories. I understand that. Virtual and in-person. And then on the other side, you have private and exclusive networking groups. And then you have public and open networking groups and events.
Okay.
So there's 4 categories that I break everything out into. And of course, being in the private networking group space, I say that you should be a part of one private networking group, 100%. Whether that's one of my groups or another type of private exclusive networking group that works for you, that's what I'm pitching. I'm pitching you need to be a part of one private exclusive networking group, no matter what it is. That's one of the most important things. So you can grow with a group of individuals, help each other, not only on a business level, but on a mentoring level. And, just be in it for the long term.
I like it.
And a lot of people, that kind of rubs people the wrong way whenever I say you got to be in it for the long run, because people these days tend to be a little bit less patient.
Yeah.
Especially my generation with all the instant access we have to everything. They want to see if something works within the first couple of months or not and make that decision. And that's not how these groups work. If you go into these groups with that mentality, you're going to be really frustrated.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that these are the best and most efficient groups to grow your business with.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to dive into that one because it raises a lot of questions, but I know you're on a roll here with these 4 types of networking. And I'm curious because you've got the private group, which is someone like, I don't know, network lead exchange, maybe. Network lead exchange would be one. Okay. We're not going to mention any other names, but anyway. So talk to me. What are the other 3?
So you've got the public and open networking groups, which would be your typical events that you could find on Meetup, Facebook events, LinkedIn events. These are typically socials, happy hours, Chamber of Commerce events. These can be in person or virtual. You're looking at like Happy Neighborhood Project. If anyone listening has heard of that, if you haven't heard of it, you should check that out as well. It's a good example of a public open type event. And so those types of events that you should supplement your networking with. What I'm saying is they're completely necessary, but people have to be careful of how they're spending their time. There's a lot of, there's a lower barrier to entry in those types of groups. People don't really have to spend time going to them. They just jump on them online. They don't have to drive through traffic. They don't have to pay for parking. They don't have to physically show up. So it's a low barrier to entry. And so, it comes with the territory, but you can definitely find some great conversations in those groups. And then, kind of going into some of the other categories just a little bit, and the categories kind of, duplicate with each other. So you've got, the private groups, those can be in person or virtual, and the public groups can also be in person or virtual. And so they each get broken down into their own category there. But with the public events and meetings, the Small Business Expo would be a good example of that. Those are open events. They don't cost anything to go to, but they're a little bit of a higher barrier to entry because people have to go out of their way to go to those events. They got to drive through traffic. They got to pay for parking. Everyone that's there mostly really wants to be there.
Yeah.
So it's.
And what is the benefit of that, Austin, for those who may not be into networking?
Yeah, it's a very, very targeted group.
Okay.
Most of the time, there are people that live in the area. So not everyone's business is geographically focused, but a lot of businesses are. And so if you're looking for people who own a business within a certain area, that's the perfect target for you. The Small Business Expo, for example, or you could do that with any type of convention or in-person expo if you're targeting that type of person. And so as a business owner, you want to go to where other people are. And if those people are taking time out of their day to get there, to go through traffic, as I said, to pay for parking, and they really want to get better or they want to meet other people. And so there's a very intentional reason that they're there. And that's why I focus on those. It's, someone didn't just roll out of bed, throw a shirt on. You don't even know if they're wearing pants or not.
Hey, leave this podcaster alone. Come on now.
You don't even know if they're wearing pants or not. And they jump on the Zoom call. That, I could argue that they don't have the best intentions. Or they don't have, that much desire.
Maybe the motive is just to get something, not necessarily give, right? So exactly. I hear you. That's good. So is there anyone else here? So you got the private, so that's a public one that is in person. Is there anyone else that you would suggest? I mean, where do chambers and stuff like that fit in here?
Yeah, I always recommend that people be a part of at least one of their local chambers.
Okay.
Now, the chambers could get a little bit interesting depending on where you are. You know, for example, where I am, there's like 5 or 6 different chambers that I could be a part of. I personally choose to be part of, the bigger one, and then I choose to be a part of one small one that's in my local, Wellington community,
Mm-hmm.
and then just kind of focus on those. But those are good opportunities to meet people that you normally wouldn't meet. A lot of the events are in person. They will host different like speed networking sessions, breakfasts, lunch, certain stuff like that. The chamber is a great place to kind of get involved in your local community.
Mm-hmm.
And you could speak along this really well, Harry. It's a place that you gotta, if you go to and try to aggressively sell at the chamber events, you'll never be successful. Never.
Right.
Those people don't want to be sold to.
Yeah.
They want to just be involved in the local community and meet people. And can you get business out of the chamber? Of course you can, but it's through brand exposure and building some validation with individuals over time and getting to know them. Really playing that long-term game with the chamber. It's a great thing to be a part of, but I think people make that mistake every single time I go to the chamber events. They're just slinging business cards and trying to get as many business cards as they can so they can follow up on them.
Right. And no one is keeping those business cards.
No.
Yeah, I think I got a stack in my pocket from a bunch of people who gave me, I don't remember who they are.
Yeah.
I hate throwing them out, but I throw them out. I mean, what am I going to do with them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? If people are going around, here's my cards. If you ever need windows, if you ever need garage doors, if you ever need printing, you can go down the list. There's somebody there that does that. And I don't know why, after all the things we've been taught about, building relationships, this is still the way some people choose to go after business. But anyway, we'll just keep shaking our heads. So I'm sorry, you go.
No, I was gonna go into, it's crazy. I mentioned the workshops that I had hosted at the Small Business Expos about networking, and a lot of times I get questions on at those workshops at the end of them about follow-up.
Yeah.
Networking, because that seems to be a hot topic because it seems to be kind of the two extremes. It seems to be people don't really follow up at all, or people follow up way too much.
Mm-hmm.
What's the appropriate amount of follow-up is the question that I always get in that workshop. Almost every single time I give the workshop, I get that, because people say, I don't want to give my business card out because I know people are just going to, call me and try to get me to buy. And then people also, on the other hand, will say, well, I don't even want to ask for a business card because, I just want to get to know them. And, if what comes around goes around, or what goes around comes around, and they're a little too passive.
Okay.
So,
I'm liking this.
Yeah.
All right. So you're saying there's a happy medium.
There is.
So talk to me. What is it?
So and people are always surprised at the way that I respond to this, because I'm in sales. You know that, Harry. I do all the development for my brand. I'm not only the brand president, I do all of the development for our franchise specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'm very persistent with my follow-up. But there's a way to be, and this word's used a lot, but there's a real way to be professionally persistent and not be overly aggressive, stereotypical salesy type person, which is what, when I respond to the question, how often do you follow up with prospects that you have that you haven't gotten a hold of yet? And I said that I haven't gotten a hold of yet. I'm following up every single day.
Okay.
And they're like, "Whoa, you're a crazy aggressive salesperson. You call them every day." And when I said I call them and I text them, I usually text, every day or every other day, but I'll call them every single day. They thought that was extremely invasive. And my pushback on that was, not if you're doing it the right way, not if you're approaching it the right way. And keep in mind, these are people I haven't gotten in contact with. So it's not like I've developed a relationship and I'm calling these people every single day. Once I develop the relationship, then we can mutually decide on what an appropriate frequency of follow-up is.
Yeah.
But until then, people are wasting their time if they're not following up every single day and trying to get that initial contact. Once you have that initial contact is where you then establish kind of what the boundaries are of the relationship with the sale. And I am, like I said, very persistent in my sales, but I right off the bat, when we talk to people, it's very open. When should we have our next conversation? Not being too super pushy. When should we have our next? They're making the decision. I'm not making
Yeah.
the decision.
Yeah.
And that's what I focus on, allowing them, asking them questions to where they can open up to me. I can get a better read on, what they want.
Right.
And then follow up accordingly to that.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because people who are not in sales don't get calling every day, right? But those of us who are in sales, we have roughly 8 hours, right? There's a lot of calls that could be made in 8 hours. And it's not like you have to leave a message every time you're calling. You're just calling to see if they pick up, right? Is 1:30 the best time? Is it 9:30 in the morning? I mean, I know people that are, go way beyond just calling once every day, right? Until they get that connection. But the thing is, if you're leaving a message every time, you're now berating somebody. There's a big difference between calling and nobody picking up and calling and leaving a message, and then your tone of voice changes.
Yes.
Like where you might have heard people say, and people leave messages with me. It's like, this is the 17th time I've called you. It's like, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
Right? That's what you're choosing to do. Don't get frustrated over the fact that I don't have time for you. Right?
Yeah.
So what's your thought on that?
Well, I have in the concept in my head, I always have it out there. If somebody doesn't answer the phone, that means they don't want to talk to you or they can't talk to you. And so if I've tried to reach someone, call it, 10 times and they haven't gotten back to me, that probably means they either have something going on in their life or they really don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And of course, I won't just always give up on that person, but the frequency becomes lower. The outreach becomes less frequent. Try different methods: texting, WhatsApp, email. I had someone at the last business expo tell me, when I get leads, I only email them because I feel like that's the least invasive way to do it. And I'm like, how's that working for you? Just emailing people. And they're like, well, I get about a 5% response rate. And I'm like, oh, out of that response rate, how many people would actually, go forward? So that's tough. But
well, so that's the path of least resistance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what they're looking for, is that if they send an email and it sounds like there's some justification, self-justification that's being spoken on the other side, is this good enough? And I love how you handled it. It's like you're pretty much saying, well, what do you think? The answer is what the answer is, right? They're not happy. They're just saying, can you pat me on the back? Because I feel like I don't want to actually pick up the phone and call, because that would put me in a spot where I could potentially look like a salesperson, and that would be awkward, right? Is that what your thought is on that, or am I putting words in your mouth?
Absolutely. No, that is the 100% viewpoint of it. And people that are sending out just texts and emails, they're one of two people. They're either people that just don't want any conflict at all, or what they think is going to be conflict. And that's the problem in the first place. We can get to that in a second, but that's the problem in the first place, is they think it's a conflict when it's really not, or they're just being lazy and they don't want to call people. But it's mostly the first part. It's mostly they're scared of confrontation. But it's not really a confrontation if you approach the sale the right way. And then before that, even, people make the mistake of looking at every prospect as a sale, and then it's theirs to lose, when what they should be doing is looking at every prospect as a prospect until it's a sale. They think sale too early,
Yeah.
and you need to focus on other things first.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, how about making friends, right?
Yeah,
You never have enough friends in life. And, it's not like you're going to become best friends with everybody. But whenever I make a call, it's like, is this a friend on the other end? Will this be a friend? You just don't know. And when you have an abundance of friends, of people kind of looking out for you, then that's not a bad thing, right?
no, it's a great
Yeah.
thing. Like building relationships is the most important part because it probably happens to me. It takes a while for this to build up in the business that you're in, but it happens to me almost every month now where somebody reaches out to me and it's somebody that I talked to a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, saying, hey, is that territory still available for the franchise? When we talked
Hmm.
last year or a year and a half ago, it wasn't the right time in my life to do this, but X, Y, and Z changed. Now, is it still available? And so they're reaching out to me because I wasn't that overly aggressive salesperson in the beginning.
Hmm.
And maybe in the beginning, did I get as many sales as I could have? I probably could have pushed people and uncomfortably got people into the business more and gotten a little bit more sales. But now I have more effective and more quality franchise owners for Network Lead Exchange. And people are coming back to me a
Yeah.
year later, 2 years later, and
Yeah.
asking me.
And I'm a huge fan of that. I mean, we've all been in situations where we've been pushed to make a decision and then we changed our minds.
Yeah,
And then it's like, well, I never really wanted to do this anyway. And the person that pushed us is like, well, you do need it. It's like, yeah, but the style is wrong.
yeah,
Right. And so you pushed me. I'm not ready. And now you're probably one and done
mm-hmm.
because going back, right? If someone, so in those shoes, so imagine you're the pushy type, trying to push someone in, they sign up and then they realize they don't want to be there. And then it's a mess, right? And once someone signs a contract for a franchise, I'm pretty sure that that's not something you get out of real easy, right? Contracts in anything are not easy, right? So then what does the person do?
Yeah,
Right? So then they start going on social media and berating, Google reviews, and then it's, please be quiet and go away. And that's all because of us in sales and not letting the person buy naturally instead of and instead we're pushing them to buy unnaturally, if you will.
yeah. And
Thoughts?
buyer's remorse is one of the worst things in the world in the franchise world.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having franchisees that have bought franchises from you and then are experiencing buyer's remorse, that's a terrible sign,
Yeah.
because it's a long-term relationship. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's not something easy to get out of, for either party.
Sure.
So that's tough. We gotta deal with our sales for a long term. I'm not just
Right.
selling a deal and then moving on to the next one. I've got to be working with these people for years and years and years to come. They're partners to us. And so that's why our sale is extremely important in regards to what we're talking about.
Yeah, I like it. So if you start sensing some shadiness or some weirdness going on, what is it you do? I mean, does that
Yeah,
ever happen where people
absolutely.
might be a little, yeah, talk to me.
Absolutely. It happened last week.
Okay.
So
We'll leave my name out of this. It wasn't me.
no,
No,
it
someone
wasn't
else.
you. It wasn't Aaron.
Okay.
But so there's three things that we want to focus on, when we're looking for the franchise buyer. First of all, obviously, are they interested? That's the easy one. Number one, do you like Network Lead Exchange, and do you love our brand? Do you like our company? Do you like our people? Cool, check. That's an important one. Number two, are you the right person? And so, I need to make sure it's not just a good fit for us, it's a good fit for you and us. So both of
Hmm.
us. So you're a good franchisee, we're going to be a good franchisor for you.
Yeah.
And then the third, and this is probably the most important one, is it the right time in their life? Because I meet a lot of people that I know I'm 100% sure they would be great Network Lead Exchange franchise owners. They want to do it, but life happens. Maybe they have a health issue that just happened. Maybe, there's crazy things. They're moving, maybe they just got married, they just got divorced, life happens.
Right.
They just got a change happen to them. But a lot of times they'll still want to kind of push forward. And I'm not opposed. I'm not anti-sales. I'm not going to tell them no, but I'm going to put together a timeline that works for them. It has to be the right time in their life. And we have a training program they have to go through. And I don't want to drag this on because it actually looks bad on franchisors that, sign people up to be a franchisee and those people never get started. And so we have to report that every single year on our disclosure document. And so that doesn't look good when somebody looks to buy a franchise and they say, oh, you had, 50 people sign franchise agreements, but only 2 of them got started. So what's going wrong? Are you guys finding the wrong people? And so that's important to us. It needs to be the right time in their life. And sometimes it's best to take a step back, take 2 steps back to eventually take 3 steps forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And those people that are going through those moments, they'll probably appreciate the fact that, someone's there that's not, breathing down their throat and saying you got to sign by the end of the month or this deal goes away, right?
It always is like that. And the example I gave you earlier, the person that came back to me this month wanting to buy a franchise, that's exactly what happened. They had another business that they were trying to sell and the sale fell through, and I could have pushed them to try to buy the franchise a little bit more, but I gave them the opportunity to, but I wasn't extremely pushy. And they said, hey, Austin, I really like you, really like your business. I think it is the right thing for me, but it's not the right time in my life.
Yeah.
And so then I took 2 steps back to eventually take 3 steps forward. And I think that we're going to get the deal done now.
Yeah.
So, and there's like I said, long-term plays. And so I'm not worried about getting the quick deal done. I'm worried about getting the right people in and building them up so that the ongoing royalties part of the business is, successful for us.
Yeah. Is it true in your business that if you don't have enough business looking at going into a month that you don't have enough prospects?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like when we have few prospects, that's when we turn on the pressure on the poor few that we have. Until you learn and you say, you know what, that's not the way to treat the people that show interest. Is start berating them to do business because I haven't done my job on getting enough prospects, right? So,
and I'll go as far as saying that usually backfires on you because then you turn up the burner on those few people and then they're feeling pressured and they could bail. And that's, I'll openly say that's happened to me.
Of course. Yeah. And I appreciate the humility, right? Because you're learning. You're still a young lad, but you're older for your years, right? Where you're learning all this and you have tremendous, background and support of being in business at such a young age, right? Mm-hmm. But you're still, still in your 20s, right?
Yeah. 28.
Yeah. Okay. So even in the 30s is still young. So, I was reading something recently about, I think it was in Think and Grow Rich, that a man does not get to be really an adult until he's in his 40s. Most people can't pursue a business and be successful until they're in their 40s. I don't know how true that is anymore because there's, people like Mark Zuckerberg and, others that were clearly started younger, but I digress. It just gives you time to grow and develop. So making mistakes in your 20s, not the end of the world. So, but I appreciate the humility. So what else you got for us, Austin?
I have a couple of books I've been reading lately. I like to read. I try to read at least a book a month. But my reading has honestly gotten smacked a little bit lately because my travel has been down, and that's where I usually get my most reading in. Yeah. On airplanes. Yeah. And all my travel that I have been doing has been driving, and unfortunately, I haven't mastered the drive and read technique. Good. Get the autopilot car. And I refuse the audiobooks, to be honest. I space when I listen to audiobooks, and I blink and I'm like, oh crap, I missed the whole chapter. Right. Yeah, that definitely happens. I do the audio, but if I'm really serious, I'll get the book as well and just get it reaffirmed basically in audio. But reading is,
You can mark up, highlight, go back, put the crease in the page, whatever you need to do. Say, I need to read this one over and over again. So, yeah.
And coincidentally, I'm on, I think, chapter 4 of your book, actually. I didn't plan for that to be, when we had this conversation.
Oh,
Uh,
great. Well, that's why we're having it. I had this
yeah,
ulterior motive. No,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
great. So, what do you think so far? Can I ask that question? Not be
You
embarrassed?
absolutely can.
Okay.
You absolutely can. It's been great. It has been absolutely great. And, a lot of the things that I've read in it is kind of reaffirmed some of the things that I've learned through trial and error over the last few years that I've been, in a leadership role in business. It just all comes together. It does. And I'm, like I said, only, I think, chapter 4, 50 or so pages in. But, I've really enjoyed it. Really, really enjoyed the perspective. And, really appreciate kind of the difference of background that you came from to go into the sales world, having 2 completely separate full careers, basically. One in ministry and one in sales. And that's really cool, because you don't typically see people like you go into the sales world and be extremely successful at it, because they're usually driven out. If they try the sales world, they're usually driven out by the aggression and
Right.
the explicit nature of sales, and the type of crowd that you get involved in, sometimes with the stereotypical crowd that I'm talking
Yeah.
about. And you talk about it in your book openly too.
Yeah.
And I've been in that world. I've managed a call center as well, with 15 guys, making
Yeah.
300-400 calls a day, and
Wow.
ripping through it. And I know you've done that as well. And so it's a completely different world of what the perspective, not the perspective, but the stereotypical sales person,
Mm-hmm.
as to what the successful salesperson is.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, I so appreciate that. And, Austin, in full disclosure, I didn't know you a few years ago. And then as I've watched you over the past couple of years, because I'm involved in Network Lead Exchange, and one of the chapters that actually is in Austin's neighborhood pretty much. And I see Austin pretty regularly, and there's not a nicer guy in the planet, right? I mean, he is just a genuinely nice guy. I didn't know where this conversation was going. I didn't realize how persistent you are with the phone calls. That wasn't the motive. I said, this is a guy that really seems to care about the people around him. And that's what sales is to me, right? It's not about the cutthroat. Hey, you got to do business. When are we going to get you? When are we going to get your own franchise, Harry? Right? That you've never said that. And people could say that all the time, and they don't care. They don't care where the chips fall. You probably recognize that I'm on a different mission, and you say I'm not a prospect for that, but Harry's a contributor in this way. And you see that with people, and that's kind of the respect I have for you. And I know you're going to continue to do well. And when I hear about how great the organization is doing, Network Lead Exchange, and people are buying big chunks of areas so that they could grow multiple franchises. I mean, that's just got to be a great feeling. I mean, did you ever? I mean, you had your dad, I'm sure, telling you about what the future could look like, but did you ever personally envision the success over such a relatively short period of time, or did you kind of look at it when you started and say, "Oh boy," what was your feeling? I mean, you don't have to be completely honest, but because in case your dad listens, but what's your thought?
No, I will be completely honest, always. And this is a different type of business than what we're used to running in the past in the franchise world, comparably. And as you see, as you've been a member, like you said, of a Network Lead Exchange group, there's a lot of moving pieces with each and every group. With other franchises that we have, like Sinorama, we deal with the owners and their employees, but we don't really deal with their customers.
Mm-hmm.
They deal with their own customers. We help them. We train them on how to deal with their customers the right way. But with Network Lead Exchange, it's a little bit different, because we're dealing with not only our franchisees, but we're dealing with their customers. as well, the members of each group.
Mm-hmm.
You deal with them directly. And so it very quickly turns into a ton of moving pieces for the corporate team. And the growth that we've experienced, the significant growth that we've experienced in the last few years, has been a lot. It's been a lot to handle, but we have been able to handle it. And we've hired, I think, three employees in the last 3 months, corporate team. And we're super excited. People are coming in and they're wanting to, buy larger areas. Like you said, they're buying up larger areas to build multiple groups in. And, working with those people has really made a big difference in our business model, because that's kind of what we're leaning towards, is looking for more of those people rather than the ones that want to run just a single group themselves.
Yeah.
And that has helped with that scalability for sure.
Yeah, it's great stuff. So, Austin, this has been a real treat to have you on. So if someone is looking to, talk to you more about franchising, they like networking, and they've just never thought about starting their own group, how can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, you can go to our website. It's networkleadexchange.com, just like it's spelled out behind me, networkleadexchange.com. Or if, franchising in general, check out our parent company, United Franchise Group, and you can go to unitedfranchisegroup.com. We have 10 different brands with 1,600 franchisees in 80 different countries. So we've grown this into quite a big business, but it's still privately held, family-owned business. It's all self-funded. We don't have any funding of any kind, and we've got a lot of family in the business. I've got 2 other brothers, 3 cousins. My dad's here, of course. And so it's just, I love working with this company and with our business, and it's, the best part of my day every day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I got great people. I totally vouch for what Austin said. The people there are just super friendly. I mean, when you walk in the door, no matter where you are, I mean, it's just a great group of people. So, and I had family that worked there for like 20 years too. So, I mean, he told the stories. And when I met you guys, it was just like, yeah, these people are great. Salt of the earth. So keep doing the great things, Austin. It was great to have you on the Sales Made Easy podcast. I love your persistence. I love your approach. And I have no doubt that we will see more network lead exchanges sprouting up, not only in the country, but internationally. So you got a great leader at the helm. You're doing great stuff. And I love your approach. So congratulations on what you're doing, and look forward to seeing you again.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Harry. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Talk to you soon, bud.
All right.
Man, sales is tough. I'm just not cut out to be a salesperson. Have you ever felt that way? Selling doesn't need to be so difficult. My name is Harry Spate. I'm here to serve and to help you succeed. Join me as we discuss Sales Made Easy.